Have we always assumed the universe is just an amorphous battlefield of cosmic dust and chaotic explosions? Look closely at the perfect symmetry of a frozen winter snowflake or the concentric geometric structure of a spinning bicycle wheel. Humanity naturally assumes that such pristine mathematical order remains the unique, small privilege of Earth. Yet, billions of light years away, advanced space telescopes have photographed staggering celestial objects with perfectly round geometric rings or precise crosses of extreme symmetry, completely defying the usual laws of celestial chaos. This flawless physical order immediately throws our localized human perception into a sudden state of deep macroscopic fear. Why does mindless interstellar matter assemble itself into deliberate structural blueprints? What we discover next will completely shatter your own personal lens of cosmic reality, exposing an architecture that simply shouldn't exist. Let us now embark on this definitive narrative journey to unravel this bizarre cosmic design. The word impossible frequently echoes through the historic and prestigious corridors of modern astronomical annals, serving as a distinct placeholder for phenomena that defy our classical understanding of reality. When advanced orbital observatories like the Hubble Space Telescope and the James Webb Space Telescope peer into the cosmic void, they do not merely capture beautiful postcards for human admiration. Instead, these sophisticated instruments record profound mathematical paradoxes that completely challenge our most foundational physical formulas. We look at deep space photographs, expecting to find the natural wreckage of an untamed interstellar wilderness, but our instruments repeatedly send back images of eerie, unyielding symmetry that seem completely out of place in a chaotic universe. This structural contradiction exposes the profound limitations of human perception, revealing that we exist inside a tight, highly restrictive cognitive cage. The human brain evolved over consecutive millennia within the extremely narrow, fragile confines of a simple, localized day and night cycle, sculpted entirely by the primitive requirements of terrestrial survival. Our localized human intuition is masterfully fine-tuned to measure and calculate the immediate physical world around us, rendering us completely blind to macroscopic scales and vast multidimensional cosmic geometry. When we are suddenly confronted with a highly structured, perfectly symmetrical deep space phenomenon, our primal consciousness experiences a form of cognitive dissonance, lacking the inherent spatial vocabulary to process such grand-scale harmony. Our spiritual instincts instantly default to familiar, comforting myths. We look at a cosmic ring or a geometric cross and immediately project our own desire for order onto the void, invoking the hand of a supernatural architect or the calculated engineering of a supreme, highly advanced extraterrestrial civilization floating among the stars. This persistent gap between our localized intuition and cosmic reality raises the grand questions that this broadcast seeks to explore. Is the deeply uncanny, flawless orderliness of these distant celestial bodies actual physical evidence of a grand cosmic design, or is it simply the ultimate manifestation of unyielding natural laws playing silently with the flexible fabric of cosmic spacetime? Why does the unyielding framework of mathematics consistently transform devastating cosmic explosions and chaotic structural collisions into breathtaking works of symmetric art? By what hidden mechanism does mindless, unguided stellar chaos naturally filter itself into rigid geometric patterns that mimic deliberate human architectural blueprints? To successfully answer these haunting cosmic questions, we must deliberately step outside the provincial boundary of our terrestrial cognitive cage. We must train our minds to look past the comforting veil of mysticism and examine the cold, beautiful mechanics of the vast physical universe. Leaving the familiar ground of our planetary home behind, we now initiate a definitive spiritual flight through the silent, frozen realms of deep space, abandoning our localized assumptions to face the raw, unfiltered geometric architecture of the wider cosmos. Our immediate physical trajectory leads us directly toward a colossal, churning domain of crimson gas and dense interstellar smoke, arriving at the most active and violent stellar nursery situated closest to our lonely home world. Our collective consciousness now leaves behind the local safety of our immediate solar neighborhood, guiding our spiritual vessel across the immense, freezing distances of interstellar space. We accelerate rapidly toward the iconic constellation of Orion, navigating precisely to a location situated 1,344 light-years away, directly from our home planet. Here we encounter the magnificent Orion Nebula, a colossal cloud of interstellar gas and cosmic dust, floating like a majestic tapestry against the absolute blackness of the void. To our human eyes, this immense cosmic structure does not present itself as a cold, dead graveyard of rock, but rather as an active, burning arena of raw creation. It stretches across an astonishing physical span of 24 light-years, blazing with an incredibly intense, otherworldly luminescence that dominates this entire quadrant of the galaxy. This represents our first definitive stop on our progressive journey. At the absolute heart of this churning cosmic cloud lies the true engine of its brilliant illumination, known to modern science as the trapezium cluster. Within this tightly packed group of young stars, a singular, ultra-massive monster commands the surrounding environment. This specific star is designated as Theta 1 Orionis C, a blazing blue giant that possesses a mass 30 times greater than that of our own Sun and radiates energy tens of thousands of times more luminous. This titanic star floods the entire nebula with a relentless, devastating torrent of high-energy ultraviolet radiation. This energetic bombardment smashes directly into the surrounding clouds of cold, neutral hydrogen gas, stripping electrons away from their host protons in a violent process of widespread ionization. When these liberated electrons naturally recombine with the waiting protons, they emit a specific, highly energetic photon at a precise wavelength of 656 nanometers. This unique signature represents the definitive hydrogen alpha spectral line. It is this exact atomic reaction, repeating countless times across the vast expanses of space, that triggers the nebula's iconic, brilliant pink and deep crimson hue, making it look like a living, glowing cavern hanging in the dark. It is vital to realize that this glowing nebula is merely the brilliant, illuminated surface of a far more expansive, dark, and frigid structure known as the Orion Molecular Cloud Complex. This sprawling, hidden region extends across hundreds of light-years, containing thousands of times the mass of our own Sun in cold, dark hydrogen gas. It represents a vast, interconnected reservoir that is currently feeding the localized stellar activity we observe. If we could switch our vision to perceive the infrared spectrum, the entire region would not appear as a small, isolated patch, but as a dominant, dark, and tangled web stretching across the northern sky. This hidden cold material acts as the reservoir of potential, a dormant foundation that will fuel the birth of countless stellar generations long after the currently visible Orion Nebula has been dispersed into the surrounding interstellar medium of our galaxy. To fully comprehend the delicate, dangerous balance operating inside this stellar nursery, consider the real-world analogy of an industrial pottery kiln. Within the tight confines of a kiln, extremely high temperatures are deliberately utilized to compress raw clay, baking it into a rigid, permanent shape. However, if the internal flame becomes too intense or uncontrollable, the extreme thermal stress will completely shatter the entire ceramic structure into useless fragments. The Orion Nebula functions on this exact same paradoxical mechanism. The intense radiation and powerful stellar winds from the newborn stars are actively compressing the surrounding pockets of cold gas and dust, forcing them to collapse under their own gravity to build small, spinning protoplanetary disks, known technically as proplyds. These dense disks contain the raw materials needed to construct future planets, moons, and perhaps eventual life. Yet, the very same radiation that catalyzes this planetary birth is simultaneously destroying the nursery, aggressively blowing away the overarching gas cloud and stripping the proplyds bare, erasing this majestic structure in just a few million years. This eternal struggle between creation and destruction has been playing out across cosmic history, hidden from human awareness for consecutive millennia. The story of our understanding begins in the year 1610, when the French astronomer Nicolas Claude Fabry de Peiresc carefully pointed his early telescope toward the hunter's sword and first discovered this faint, ghostly mark. This monumental observation shattered the ancient, comforting misconception that the night sky was an eternal, unchanging, and silent veil wrapped around our world. Peiresc revealed that the cosmos was dynamic, filled with fluid structures that evolve over vast stretches of time. Modern space telescopes have finalized his work, confirming that creation is fundamentally messy, born from intense friction, heat, and structural pressure. Leaving directly behind the fiery battlefield of nascent stars and these evaporating planetary cradles, our progressive journey now ascends further into the cosmic matrix, pushing outward to confront an ancient, bleeding stellar colossus that is currently breathing its last. Our progressive journey now steers away from the local nursery, ascending directly to the northern shoulder of the Orion constellation. Hanging low in the cold winter skies, we confront a different kind of cosmic anomaly, an ancient, bloated red supergiant known as Betelgeuse. This celestial colossus burns not with the bright, youthful energy of newborn blue giants, but with the fading light of a dying titan. It serves as a striking manifestation of the ultimate volume paradox, a structural state that completely challenges our terrestrial concepts of physical density. By surveying this ancient colossus, our instruments record a star so profoundly expanded that its outer boundaries represent an engineered illusion of mass, hiding an interior that is rapidly breaking down under the unyielding weight of its own evolutionary progression. To look inside this bleeding colossus is to witness a complex layered system described as an onion shell structure. Having exhausted the primary hydrogen fuel in its central core, Betelgeuse has been forced to fuse progressively heavier atomic elements to fight off gravitational collapse. Concentric layers of nuclear fusion operate simultaneously, burning helium into carbon, carbon into neon, neon into oxygen, and oxygen into silicon. At the absolute center of this thermodynamic engine sits the final fatal prize, a growing core of solid iron. Because iron requires more energy to fuse than it releases, nuclear fusion ceases entirely once this heavy metallic core accumulates. This thermal threshold completely disrupts the delicate hydrostatic pressure balance that supported the star for millions of consecutive years. Without the outward push of nuclear energy, gravity seizes absolute control, creating a profound structural instability that ripples outward through the star's loose garments of gas. To comprehend the terrifying physical scale of this volume paradox, look closely at how this red supergiant maps onto our planetary neighborhood. Placed at the center of our solar system, its bloated body would instantly swallow Mars and extend its volatile outer atmosphere to the distant orbit of Jupiter, spanning a diameter of approximately 1.2 billion kilometers. Yet, herein lies the grand paradox that confuses our localized intuition. While Betelgeuse occupies a volume hundreds of millions of times larger than our home star, its mass is a mere 10 to 20 times that of the Sunday. It functions exactly like a giant balloon inflated to its maximum limit. The star's outermost layers are so incredibly diffuse that they are held to the core by nothing more than a thin thread of gravity, constantly rippling like smoke. This structural fragility recently triggered a global debate that exposed the profound limitations of human observation. Near the conclusion of the year 2019, professional observatories watched in utter astonishment as Betelgeuse underwent the Great Dimming. Over a few short months, the star's visual brightness plummeted by 60%, dropping it down to its lowest recorded luminosity in over a century. Speculative headlines instantly filled our media channels, claiming that we were watching the final death throes of the Colossus, a definitive prelude to an immediate Type II supernova explosion. However, empirical data completely corrected these errors. The dimming was not a sign of core collapse, but a massive surface mass ejection. A colossal plume of superheated gas had burst from the surface, cooled rapidly as it entered the freezing void, and condensed into a massive cloud of silicate dust that temporarily obscured our line of sight. The dying giant is continuously leaving invisible cracks in space, shedding its physical body into the dark intergalactic medium. While its final Type II supernova explosion will one day enrich our galaxy with iron and nickel, its current state stands as a monument to the instability of cosmic giants. Leaving the bleeding colossus behind to continue its slow dance with gravity, our progressive narrative trajectory now pushes deeper into the interstellar void. We travel away from single stars toward a location where a medium-mass star has completely let go of its physical body, leaving behind a haunting structure shaped like a giant, silent eye, endlessly staring into the deep darkness. Our progressive narrative journey now navigates away from single stars, plunging significantly deeper into the vast, silent expanses of the cosmic matrix, directly toward the ancient constellation of Aquarius. At a precise physical distance of 655 light-years from our planetary home, we confront a profoundly serene, yet deeply unsettling structural phenomenon. This is the planetary nebula catalogued officially as NGC 7293, known more popularly as the Helix Nebula. To human observers utilizing modern orbital equipment, this breathtaking object presents itself as a colossal, brilliantly colored iris floating gracefully against the absolute blackness of open space. It looks exactly like a giant ghostly eye, staring directly back at our civilization from across the interstellar abyss, serving as a silent testament to a stellar tragedy that occurred thousands of consecutive years ago. At the geometric center of this majestic atmospheric ring lies the primary architect of this entire display, a super-dense white dwarf star. This incredible object is the dead core of an evolved star that once closely resembled our own yellow Sunday. When its internal nuclear fuel was completely exhausted, the outer envelope was cast away, leaving behind a naked stellar corpse. This white dwarf is roughly the same physical size as our Earth, yet it still retains approximately 60% of the entire mass of the Sunday. This gravitational collapse creates an environment of extreme material density. A single tiny spoonful of this degenerate matter would weigh multiple tons if brought to our planetary surface. This star no longer undergoes nuclear fusion, yet it still glows with fierce residual heat, radiating an intense surface temperature of approximately 100,000 Kelvin, flooding local space with high-energy ultraviolet light. It is absolutely crucial at this precise milestone of our narrative journey to resolve a classic, widespread communication error. This iconic structure is frequently confused with the Ring Nebula, which is designated as Messier 57 and resides much further away within the constellation of Lyra. While they share a circular morphology, their structural scale and historical timelines are entirely distinct. The unique creation of the Helix Nebula is driven by the intense ultraviolet radiation blasting from the central white dwarf, which ionizes the surrounding layers of discarded stellar material. When electrons interact with ionized oxygen gas, they emit a distinct blue-green light, whereas their interaction with hydrogen produces a rich red color. This atomic sorting creates the layered eye-like appearance captured by modern photography, transforming a violent death into an organized exhibition of chemical architecture. A closer examination of these colored rings reveals an even more bizarre anomaly that defies our expectations of fluid dynamics. Scattered widely throughout the inner boundary of the entire nebula are thousands of dense structures known as cometary knots. Each individual knot is incredibly massive, spanning a physical width that matches the size of an entire solar system, complete with long gaseous tails pointing away from the central white dwarf. To comprehend the fluid mechanics behind this, look at the real-world analogy of a common garden hose. Operating a garden hose initially creates a gentle, slow-moving stream of water. If you then turn on a high-pressure pump directly behind that stream, the fast torrent violently slams into the slow water from behind. This mechanical impact instantly tears the stream apart, fracturing the water into thousands of independent droplets that scatter across the area. This is the exact process that sculpted the cometary knots, where a fast stellar wind moving at 100 kilometers per second overtook the slow wind expelled earlier, tearing the gas cloud into dense fragments. The definitive blueprint for the life cycle of a single star is now complete, providing a detailed mathematical calculation of how our own planetary system will one day end. Leaving this ghostly iris behind to dissolve into the dark matrix, we now prepare to expand our distance scale thousands of times over, pushing our consciousness far beyond our local stellar neighborhood to confront the truly colossal, overwhelming architectural structures that define the wider, highly massive Milky Way galaxy. Our progressive narrative journey now accelerates past the localized boundaries of dead stellar husks, expanding our directional grid to navigate toward the immense, soaring architecture of the Eagle Nebula. Situated within the dense Sagittarius arm of the Milky Way galaxy, this breathtaking domain hosts one of the most celebrated structural icons in all of modern astronomical history. However, as our perception vessel approaches this target, we must immediately execute a critical mathematical correction to resolve a serious, widespread error found throughout popular science literature. Many educational broadcasts and public media articles repeatedly state that this stellar nursery resides at a distance equivalent to 41.6 trillion miles from our planet. This figure is a massive, mathematically invalid understatement that completely distorts the true, overwhelming scale of deep space separation. Rigorous telemetry calculations confirm that the actual physical distance to these towers is 7,000 light-years. When calculated accurately into terrestrial units, 7,000 light-years is equivalent to 41.1 quadrillion miles, a staggering chasm of open space that places the nursery completely out of reach. To ground this immense scale into a functional comparison, look closely at the speed of the fastest spacecraft on the planet. Traveling at maximum velocity, it would take us over 100 million years to travel that distance across the interstellar void. As we penetrate the outer perimeter of this quadrillion-mile abyss, we encounter the towering structures known formally as the Pillars of Creation. To our normal optical senses, these columns appear as dark, impenetrable monoliths of solid rock, standing defiantly against the stellar wind. This visual barrier represents another profound illusion of perception. Modern astrophysics has managed to completely dissolve this opaque curtain of interstellar smoke by using the infrared wavelengths of the James Webb Telescope to penetrate the dust layer. The longer wavelengths of infrared light easily pass through the freezing screens of carbon dust, revealing the inner workings of a hyperactive factory of star birth. Within the translucent interior of these 4 light-year-long gas columns, our sensors detect pockets of immense structural compression where gravity is actively winning its war against thermal pressure. At the tops of these 4 light-year-long gas columns, the telescope cuts through the dense dark shields to reveal glowing red protostars. These bright points represent stellar infants quietly gathering mass from the surrounding molecular cloud until their core temperatures reach the critical threshold required to officially trigger nuclear fusion within their central cores. This pristine image of cosmic creation exposes our consciousness to a terrifying time illusion dictated entirely by the strict speed limit of the universe. Because the light had to travel across 41.1 quadrillion miles of space, the grand towers we look at are not a representation of the present, but a delayed echo of the ancient past. We see the nebula exactly as it existed 7,000 years ago. Analyzing the nature of the image reveals a profound cosmic secret. A supernova shockwave may have swept away these pillars 6,000 years ago. This means that if you were standing near the epicenter today, the columns would be entirely non-existent, replaced by a diffuse mist of scattered atoms. Yet, due to the limitations of the speed of light, this structural destruction remains completely invisible to our planet. Humanity had to wait another 1,000 years to see the impact, meaning we are actively admiring a magnificent celestial ghost that was completely destroyed when our earliest human civilizations were just beginning to form on Earth. The realization of this temporal detachment leaves our localized human consciousness floating in a deep state of intellectual awe. We have successfully completed our detailed physical assessment of local cosmic architecture, crossing the boundaries of the Milky Way's dust clouds. The Perception spacecraft now accelerates to its extreme limit, leaving the entire structural framework of our home galaxy completely behind. we plunge directly into the absolute, freezing void of deep intergalactic space, navigating across millions of light-years of empty interstellar nothingness in search of a brilliant light coin floating silently in the dark matrix. Our progressive narrative journey now glides seamlessly out of the majestic, dusty borders of our home galaxy, plunging into the vast depths of the intergalactic medium. We direct our electronic eyes toward the southern edge of the prominent constellation of Virgo, arriving precisely at the cosmic coordinate of the majestic galaxy catalogued as Messier 104. Popularly celebrated worldwide as the Sombrero Galaxy, this stunning celestial body resides at a calculated physical distance of approximately 31 million light-years from Earth. To anchor this incredible span of separation into a functional geological timeline, we must analyze the exact terrestrial epoch when these incoming photons first initiated their cross-universe voyage. The ancient light reaching our modern space telescopes today departed from its source 31 million years ago, a point in time corresponding precisely with Earth's Oligocene epoch. This specific temporal calculation provides a critical opportunity to execute an important natural history correction, rectifying a serious informational error propagated in popular video content. Many unverified media broadcasts mistakenly claim that this light left when prehistoric saber-toothed tigers roamed the fields of North America. This is a massive chronological invalidation. Empirical biological science confirms that this period was completely devoid of such creatures, as the famous genus Smilodon belonged exclusively to the Pleistocene epoch, which occurred millions of years later. By evaluating the deep structural telemetry data gathered from modern orbital observatories, astrophysics has uncovered a bizarre, highly anomalous hybrid composition that completely challenges standard galactic classification frameworks. The Sombrero Galaxy presents an intellectual puzzle because it refuses to conform neatly to any single morphological profile, behaving instead like a transitional bridge between two entirely different galactic species. Look closely at its outer perimeter, where our sensors detect a remarkably dense, flat, and freezing disk composed of cold interstellar dust and molecular gas. This particular gas structure serves as an active nursery for steady stellar birth, a hallmark characteristic associated almost exclusively with classical spiral galaxies. Yet, as our instruments sweep outward beyond this flat ring into the surrounding halo region, the data shifts dramatically, bearing the distinct signature of an elliptical galaxy. This sprawling spherical halo contains an unprecedented population of over 2,000 ancient globular clusters, a dense fossil record of stellar evolution that is nearly 10 times more populated than the halo of our own Milky Way. Furthermore, deep within the blindingly bright core of this hybrid structure sits a terrifying gravity monster, a supermassive black hole with a calculated mass equivalent to approximately 1 billion times that of our Sun, holding the entire multi-species architecture together. Beyond the optical beauty of the core, high-energy radio telescopes have mapped the behavior of the matter surrounding this massive central anchor. Matter spiraling into the event horizon does not simply disappear. It forms a swirling, superheated accretion disk that generates powerful radio jets, shooting material outward at relativistic speeds. This process functions like a cosmic dynamo, recycling the debris of dying stars back into the galactic halo. This ongoing cycle of consumption and emission demonstrates that even galaxies as balanced and poised as the Sombrero are, in reality, active, breathing systems. They are constantly consuming their internal resources to maintain their structure, proving that the tranquility we perceive is a result of intense, high-energy internal processes that maintain a delicate, long-term equilibrium against the constant encroaching darkness of the surrounding vacuum. This energetic activity is a reminder that even the most beautiful, symmetric structures are powered by violent, unstoppable physical forces operating on the edge of total collapse. To translate this complex, multi-tiered structural system into a highly functional real-world comparison, look directly at the smooth mechanical operation of a pristine vinyl record player. We can visualize this hybrid galaxy exactly as a heavy vinyl record of intricate classical music, wrapped carefully in a dark, thick velvet ribbon directly around its outer edge. The dark ribbon of velvet represents the dense, backlit ring of interstellar dust, while the spinning body of the record represents the flat disk of starlight extending across space. This entire composite system continuously rotates with flawless mechanical equilibrium around a highly illuminated central axis, where the blinding pearl of the core hides the invisible pull of the central holes. This exquisite choreography of matter, sustained effortlessly over consecutive millennia by the unyielding laws of thermodynamics, projects an illusion of absolute peace, a serene mathematical sculpture frozen in the dark. This serene, peaceful order documented within the architecture of the Sombrero Galaxy represents merely a rare and beautiful exception in a highly volatile cosmos. The delicate balance of its multiform components reminds us that nature can occasionally forge harmony out of structural complexity. However, as our perception vessel pushes forward, departing from this quiet masterpiece to journey deeper into the freezing intergalactic darkness, we prepare to witness a completely different reality. We travel toward a sector where the gentle mathematics of equilibrium give way to a captivating, large-scale act of cosmic violence, where multiple galaxies are locked in a battle for survival. Our progressive narrative journey now accelerates past the majestic, balanced choreography of stable hybrid structures, pushing our vessel directly into a highly volatile arena of deep intergalactic wreckage. We navigate across the chasm of open space to analyze a famous compact galaxy group discovered originally in the year 1877 by the French astronomer Édouard Stephan, recognized globally as Stephan's Quintet. This stunning formation initially presents itself to human observers as a peaceful collection of 5 tightly clustered galaxies dancing in perfect harmony. However, evaluating the deep structural telemetry data gathered by modern space telescopes exposes a striking rift in cosmic reality, bearing a massive optical deception. The galaxy designated as NGC 7320 is merely a deceptive foreground actor, situated relatively close to our homeworld at a distance of 40 million light-years. It has absolutely no physical relationship with the rest of the cluster. The remaining 4 galaxies are located immensely further behind in the background of the galactic matrix, separated by a chasm of 290 million light-years. These 4 true members, known formally as NGC 7317, NGC 7318A, NGC 7318B, and NGC 7319, are locked in a slow, devastating gravitational collision battle that has been raging across consecutive millennia. This grand cosmic wreckage provides a critical scientific opportunity to completely refute a compelling misconception frequently proposed by amateur stargazers. Some speculative viewer hypotheses suggest that because of the immense gravitational forces generated during a galactic merger, relativistic time dilation would slow down local reality so intensely that the collision would appear permanently frozen or might have already occurred from an internal perspective. Empirical physics flatly debunks this notion. Interstellar and intergalactic space remains entirely too vast and diffuse for localized fields to freeze time on a macro scale. Linear time is absolutely not frozen inside these moving systems. Instead, the physical laws of celestial dynamics unfold at a steady, unyielding pace. This validation directly recalibrates our understanding of our own planetary neighborhood, reminding us that the future collision between our native Milky Way and the neighboring Andromeda Galaxy remains an active, unhalted kinetic event securely positioned 4 billion years away in our distant temporal future. Our local stars will eventually experience a similar gravitational disruption, but the laws of motion guarantee that this process will proceed seamlessly over billions of consecutive years without altering the linear flow of time. While the mechanics of these mergers require millions of years to completely finalize, the scale of the ongoing structural violence within Stephan's group is staggeringly rapid. The galaxy known formally as NGC 7318b is currently hurtling through the heart of the cluster at a kinetic velocity of approximately 900 kilometers per second. This supersonic movement acts like a colossal snowplow traveling through intergalactic space, violently compressing the raw, diffuse hydrogen gas situated between the colliding systems. This extreme mechanical pressure generates a massive cross-galactic wall of supersonic shock waves, heating the gas particles until they reach temperatures of millions of degrees. This heated intergalactic fire does not register on conventional optical sensors, but the high-energy signatures have been explicitly captured by the keen vision of NASA's Chandra X-ray Observatory, revealing a vast, glowing crescent of raw thermal energy rippling through the wreckage. Simultaneously, the James Webb Space Telescope has utilized its advanced infrared detectors to map the intricate veins of newborn star formation triggered directly by this compression, demonstrating how cosmic destruction acts as the direct catalyst for fresh stellar genesis across the dark intergalactic void. The chaotic destruction of these colliding worlds demonstrates that the universe is in an entirely constant state of transition, breaking down old systems to eventually recycle their material into future star systems. From the sprawling wreckage of these colliding galaxies and the fiery walls of intergalactic shockwaves, our progressive journey now leads our consciousness away from physical violence toward the most perfectly orchestrated optical illusion that spatial geometry has ever created in the dark intergalactic void. Our progressive narrative journey now accelerates past the chaotic wreckage of colliding galactic systems, expanding our trajectory into the remote, silent domains of the northern sky. We guide our consciousness directly toward the precise coordinates of the historic constellation of Pegasus. Here, we encounter one of the most intellectually unsettling optical anomalies ever documented by modern space telescopes, an object designated officially as the Einstein Cross. To our normal visual perception, this phenomenon looks like an artificial cosmic glitch or a pristine geometric emblem carved directly onto the dark canvas of space, presenting four perfectly arranged, brilliant spotlights positioned around a faint central core. This stunning layout represents a monumental confirmation of the laws of general relativity, serving as an absolute showcase for how massive structures alter the physical geometry of space. To untangle the factual mechanics of this impossible object, our instruments must measure two completely separate coordinates located on the same line of sight. Situated relatively close to our own solar backyard, at a physical distance of 400 million light-years, is the foreground actor Hutra's lens, a massive elliptical galaxy. Immensely further behind in the remote background of the galactic matrix, at a distance of approximately 8 billion light-years, sits the true source of the illumination, a violent, high-energy quasar powered by a central supermassive black hole. The massive foreground galaxy sits directly in front of this distant monster. Because the galaxy contains hundreds of billions of stars, its concentrated mass warps the surrounding fabric of spacetime, acting as a powerful gravitational lens. The ancient light traveling from the background quasar does not move in a straight line. Instead, it is forced to follow the curved, warped pathways of spacetime wrapped around the intervening galaxy, splitting the single background object into multiple distinct images. This pristine alignment provides an unyielding scientific solution to a big question frequently asked by our audience. Why does this gravitational lens split the incoming light into exactly 4 symmetrical points, and not 3 points, 5 points, or a flawless, continuous circular ring? The precise answer lies within the laws of quadrupole gravitational mechanics. If the intervening foreground galaxy possessed a perfectly spherical mass distribution, the background light would expand evenly around it, generating a continuous circular halo known as an Einstein ring. However, Hutra's lens is an asymmetrical elliptical galaxy. Its eccentrically distributed mass creates a distinct quadrupole gravitational field, meaning the gravity is unevenly stretched along its major and minor axes. This non-spherical concentration deforms the fabric of spacetime into exactly 4 major gravitational thunglung, creating a diamond-shaped boundary known as a caustic. Because the background quasar sits precisely inside this caustic window, the photon streams are forced to split into exactly 4 distinct paths of least action, each traveling a slightly different route around the cosmic mountain of mass. Because these paths vary in length, each individual spotlight arrives at our telescopes with a unique, measurable time delay, allowing us to watch time itself split. To translate this complex, non-spherical warping of spacetime into a clear real-world comparison, look directly at how normal light interacts with common household glassware. We can visualize this quadrupole mechanism by shining a highly focused flashlight beam through the thick, beveled bottom of an ornate crystal glass onto a flat tabletop. If the glass were perfectly smooth and circular, the output light would project a single uniform ring. However, the beveled edges cut into the glass break the uniform refraction, splitting the single flashlight beam into exactly 4 perfectly symmetrical, brilliant spots of light on the dark table. This is the exact geometric process occurring across 8 billion light-years of space, where the non-spherical shape of the galaxy acts as a physical prism that slices a single voice into 4 distinct echoes. The magnificent geometry of the Einstein Cross proves that what appears to our senses as an impossible artificial structure is actually the natural, predictable consequence of mass playing with the fabric of reality. 4 independent spotlights born entirely from a single background source, sustained over consecutive millennia by the unyielding rules of general relativity. However, while this cosmic cross showcases the power of spatial distortion, our geometric journey must push even further into the intergalactic medium. The apparent perfection of these 4 scattered shards reaches an even more unimaginable level of absolute harmony when we confront the most solitary, immaculate ring floating in the dark universe. Our progressive narrative journey now accelerates past the localized boundaries of dead stellar husks, expanding our directional grid to navigate toward the immense, soaring architecture of the Hoag object. Situated within the constellation Serpens, this breathtaking domain hosts one of the most celebrated structural icons in all of modern astronomical history. Official catalogs designate this structure as PGC 54559, but it is universally recognized across the globe as the Hoag object. To human observers utilizing highly advanced orbital sensors, this breathtaking object presents itself as a masterpiece of absolute, frozen geometry. At the very heart of the system sits a dense, spherical core of older golden yellow stars, appearing completely detached from the surrounding environment. Encircling this radiant center is a wide, perfectly circular ring populated by millions of young, bright blue stars, creating a visual separation that feels meticulously engineered by the laws of physics. The physical scale of this celestial structure is enormous, forcing us to re-evaluate galactic architecture. The brilliant blue ring spans a physical diameter of 120,000 light-years, making it larger than our own Milky Way. Between the inner golden core and this outer blue ring lies a dark gap tens of thousands of light-years wide containing almost no detectable stars or gas. This organization presents a profound mystery that breaks the standard model of galactic evolution. In nearly every other observed case, ring galaxies are the direct, violent results of a radial collision where an intruder galaxy plunges through the center of a larger system, pushing gas outward. Yet, the Hoag object is entirely pristine, showing zero signs of such external trauma. There are no tidal tails of scattered matter, no visible debris fields, and no potential intruder galaxies nearby that could have caused this specific arrangement, effectively shattering the accuracy of our current computer simulations. This absolute structural perfection forces us to confront the limitations of our scientific modeling. When the Hubble Space Telescope utilized its camera to zoom directly into the dark, empty gap of this star ring, it revealed a second ring galaxy situated billions of light-years behind. This secondary galaxy is aligned in such an absurd, precise way that it appears to be physically floating inside the center of the Hoag object, serving as a silent, beautiful echo of the primary structure. This alignment is entirely coincidental, a freak occurrence born from the cold, unfeeling laws of cosmic probability that occasionally manifest patterns so bizarre they challenge the boundary between physical law and impossible luck. Consider the real-world analogy. of a complex mandala constructed by monks out of fine, loose sand. A mandala represents a temporary arrangement of matter into a perfect geometric shape, designed to signify the internal balance of the universe before it is inevitably brushed away into nothingness. The Hoag object functions as a cosmic mandala, a ring of light within a ring of light, holding its precise, immaculate form against the immense pressure of the surrounding void. It represents an ultimate, unyielding mathematical coincidence, an arrangement of billions of stars that defies our conventional expectations of how galaxies should age and interact. It stands as a monument to the strange underlying order that persists even within the vastness of the deep, dark, and mostly empty universe. The peaceful geometry of this ring system, while beautiful to observe, acts only as a fleeting moment in the grand, linear timeline of galactic evolution. The stars within the ring will eventually exhaust their fuel, and the pristine circular shape will be slowly distorted by the ongoing tug of gravitational tides. All this light and immaculate geometric order will eventually be swallowed up and faded into the background. As we prepare to reach the absolute summit of our narrative journey, we must look toward a final horizon. We arrive at the very edge of the observable cosmos, where the light of distant stars finally ceases to be, where the fabric of our reality stretches to its absolute breaking point, and where space itself becomes entirely empty of structure. Our progressive narrative journey now surges forward from the wreckage of the colliding group, pushing our consciousness into the deepest, most quiet sectors of the intergalactic abyss. We navigate toward the constellation Serpens, focusing our instruments on one of the most intellectually baffling formations ever documented by modern astronomical science. This celestial structure is officially catalogued as PGC 54559, but it is universally recognized across the globe as the Hoag object. To human observers utilizing highly advanced orbital sensors, this breathtaking object presents itself as a masterpiece of absolute, frozen geometry. At the very heart of the system sits a dense, spherical core of older golden yellow stars, appearing completely detached from the surrounding environment. Encircling this radiant center is a wide, perfectly circular ring populated by millions of young, bright blue stars, creating a visual separation that feels meticulously engineered by the laws of physics. The physical scale of this celestial structure is enormous, forcing us to re-evaluate galactic architecture. The brilliant blue ring spans a physical diameter of 120,000 light-years, making it larger than our own Milky Way. Between the inner golden core and this outer blue ring lies a dark gap tens of thousands of light-years wide, containing almost no detectable stars or gas. This organization presents a profound mystery that breaks the standard model of galactic evolution. In nearly every other observed case, ring galaxies are the direct, violent results of a radial collision where an intruder galaxy plunges through the center of a larger system, pushing gas outward. Yet, the Hoag object is entirely pristine, showing zero signs of such external trauma. There are no tidal tails of scattered matter, no visible debris fields, and no potential intruder galaxies nearby that could have caused this specific arrangement, effectively shattering the accuracy of our current computer simulations. This absolute structural perfection forces us to confront the limitations of our scientific modeling. When the Hubble Space Telescope utilized its camera to zoom directly into the dark, empty gap of this star ring, it revealed a second ring galaxy situated billions of light-years behind. This secondary galaxy is aligned in such an absurd, precise way that it appears to be physically floating inside the center of the Hoag object, serving as a silent, beautiful echo of the primary structure. This alignment is entirely coincidental, a freak occurrence born from the cold, unfeeling laws of cosmic probability that occasionally manifest patterns so bizarre they challenge the boundary between physical law and impossible luck. Consider the real-world analogy of a complex mandala constructed by monks out of fine, loose sand. A mandala represents a temporary arrangement of matter into a perfect geometric shape, designed to signify the internal balance of the universe before it is inevitably brushed away into nothingness. The Hoag object functions as a cosmic mandala, a ring of light within a ring of light, holding its precise, immaculate form against the immense pressure of the surrounding void. It represents an ultimate, unyielding mathematical coincidence, an arrangement of billions of stars that defies our conventional expectations of how galaxies should age and interact. It stands as a monument to the strange, underlying order that persists even within the vastness of the deep, dark, and mostly empty universe. The peaceful geometry of this ring system, while beautiful to observe, acts only as a fleeting moment in the grand, linear timeline of galactic evolution. The stars within the ring will eventually exhaust their fuel, and the pristine circular shape will be slowly distorted by the ongoing tug of gravitational tides. All this light and immaculate geometric order will eventually be swallowed up and faded into the background. As we prepare to reach the absolute summit of our narrative journey, we must look toward a final horizon. We arrive at the very edge of the observable cosmos, where the light of distant stars finally ceases to be, where the fabric of our reality stretches to its absolute breaking point, and where space itself becomes entirely empty of structure. As our narrative journey reaches this stage, we must expand our observational lens beyond individual celestial bodies to reconnect with the largest structural network in known reality, the cosmic web. The massive soaring gas towers of the pillars of creation, the balanced elliptical halo of the Sombrero Galaxy, or the complex gravitational valleys of the Einstein Cross are not random, isolated entities floating in a vacuum. They are luminous nodes, interconnected by invisible gargantuan threads of dark matter that define the fundamental architecture of the cosmos. By mapping these systems, astrophysics reveals that galaxies function as the bright intersections of a vast, complex grid, held together by the unyielding, invisible pull of gravity. This grand cosmic web determines where matter coalesces into luminous threads and where it is left behind as vast, empty, silent voids. To trace the historical origins of this monumental structure, we must peer back into the initial, violent moments of creation. The structural patterns we observe today are the magnified, fossilized traces of quantum fluctuations that appeared only a fraction of a billionth of a second, specifically 10 to the power of -36 seconds after the Big Bang. During the fleeting, hyperactive era known as cosmic inflation, the entire fabric of space expanded with exponential violence. This rapid stretching process inflated those microscopic, infinitesimal energy ripples into massive, macroscopic scales. These early variations in energy density established the initial conditions for the evolution of the cosmos, dictating the precise locations where gravity would later pull material together to ignite the first generation of stars. This early, uneven distribution of mass acted as the primary scaffold for the universe. Dark matter, which does not interact with electromagnetic radiation, formed the invisible foundation upon which all visible baryonic matter was later deposited. As this dark matter scaffold grew and matured, it gravitationalized the surrounding environment, funneling hydrogen gas into the dense filaments of the cosmic web. This process was not an accident. It was the direct result of quantum mechanics operating at a scale that defies our terrestrial understanding. The geometry of the universe, from the local superclusters to the vast hollow voids like the Boötes region, is the long-term mathematical output of these primordial quantum states. Understanding these origins brings us face to face with the definitive limits of current scientific knowledge and the eventual destiny of reality, governed strictly by the second law of thermodynamics. This law dictates that entropy, or the state of disorder, must always increase within a closed system. All the perfect geometric balance of the Hoag object or the dazzling concentrated brilliance of the Einstein Cross are merely transient, temporary moments of dynamic equilibrium. These structures are not static. They are temporary arrangements of matter resisting the natural, entropic march toward total disorder. The fundamental physics of the universe dictates that energy naturally dissipates, and organized structures inevitably decay over vast stretches of temporal history. This struggle against entropy is becoming increasingly difficult as the universe grows older and larger. Dark energy, the most enigmatic force in modern cosmology, is currently pushing the physical fabric of space apart at an accelerating rate. This expansion is stretching the vast cosmic web, driving distant galactic clusters away from one another at velocities that will soon surpass the speed of light. In hundreds of billions of years, the gravitational influence binding our local group will be completely overwhelmed by this accelerating expansion. Individual galaxies will eventually become entirely isolated from the view of their neighbors, leaving each system as a solitary, lonely outpost in a rapidly growing desert of darkness. As these galaxies drift apart, the continuous depletion of accessible gas and dust will leave star-forming nurseries unable to ignite new suns. The cycle of stellar birth that fuels the cosmic web will eventually grind to a permanent, irreversible halt. Matter will run out of the vital nuclear fusion fuel required to sustain its own light, forcing the universe to face the inevitable finality of the Big Freeze. In this eventual era, the vibrant, energetic, and colorful reality we recognize today will be slowly swallowed up by the endless, empty darkness of the cosmic voids. All existence will return to a state of absolute, silent equilibrium, where physical structure ceases to exist, and the grand cosmic grid fades into the eternal, featureless void of a dead universe. This is the inescapable path set by the laws of physics, a long, slow journey toward the ultimate, final cessation of all light and structural complexity across the totality of space. This accelerating expansion is driven by the mysterious, invisible, and all-encompassing force known to physics as dark energy. While gravity acts as the tether that pulls local structures together, dark energy functions as a repulsive pressure inherent to the vacuum of space itself. As the volume of the universe increases, the total quantity of this energy also grows, which subsequently increases the rate of expansion. This creates a runaway feedback loop that will eventually overcome every local gravitational pull, ensuring the eventual dissolution of all physical connections. Our journey through the deep annals of the cosmos has been a profound exploration of physical reality and the limits of our understanding. We have traversed the burning crimson cradles of the Orion Nebula, where stars are forged in radiation, to the silent void that defines the borders of the galactic matrix. We have peered through the distorted, gravity-warped lenses predicted by Einstein, watching as the fabric of spacetime bends light into impossible symbols. Finally, we stood at the threshold of the terrifying nothingness found within the Betelgeuse void. Every single significant step taken on this grand, enlightening expedition has served to remind us of the vast, indifferent power governing the structure of our existence, which acts as a humbling, profound mirror to the inherent fragility of our own biological life. The human brain remains limited by its evolutionary history. Programmed by millions of years of survival on the surface of a singular planet, our cognitive systems are tuned to navigate the predictable patterns of day and night, the changing seasons, and immediate physical threats. This sensory cage provides safety, but it renders our perception blind to the macroscopic scales of the universe. When forced to contemplate the true dimensions of black holes with the mass of 1 billion suns, or the silence of voids stretching across hundreds of millions of light years, our neurological capacity experiences total, paralyzing bewilderment. Our primal consciousness is inherently struggling to reconcile the finite nature of our lives with the infinite, expansive, and deeply ancient timeline of the cold, dark, and silent cosmos. We are physically incapable of grasping the raw nature of these colossal scales. This cognitive gap is not a failure of intelligence, but an artifact of our survival as planetary creatures. We feel small and meaningless against the backdrop of the galactic abyss. This insignificance is an honest reaction when confronting the absolute, terrifying, and awe-inspiring scale of the entire universe. Yet, amidst this overwhelming sense of smallness, we must acknowledge a profound truth that elevates the human position in the cosmic hierarchy. While supermassive black holes possess enough mass to consume solar systems, they are fundamentally devoid of consciousness. They are blind, unthinking monsters, incapable of curiosity, wonder, or contemplation. A nebula, regardless of how vibrant its crimson colors or how complex its chemical architecture, cannot understand its own internal wavelength of 656 nanometers. It lacks the capacity to analyze, to question, or to seek purpose within the silence. By contrast, humanity, despite being comprised of vulnerable biological matter, has developed the unique, inexplicable ability to observe and analyze the very mechanisms that forged the stars. We build complex, ultra-precise instruments, like the Hubble and James Webb telescopes, to dissect the behavior of distant anomalies situated billions of light years away. We stand as the tiny, fragile, thinking observers of a reality that stretches far beyond our reach. We have the internal power to give voice to the silence of the stars. Our greatness is defined not by the physical volume of our bodies, but by the infinite, expanding scale of our curiosity and our relentless, unquenchable drive to find meaning in the chaos. Every single atom within our biological framework shares a direct, traceable lineage with the violent, ancient deaths of massive stellar entities. The iron currently circulating in your pulsing veins, the calcium providing the solid foundation for your skeletal structure, and the oxygen enabling your every breath were all forged within the white-hot, dying hearts of giant stars like Betelgeuse or the Helix Nebula. This profound, deep, and intimate connection binds us to every single celestial object that we have ever mapped throughout the entire recorded history of our species. We do not stand outside the universe to view it as spectators. We are an inseparable part of the universe. We represent the primary, vital mechanism by which the cosmos opens its eyes, evolves into sentient biological systems, and begins to observe, calculate, and contemplate the profound, mysterious nature of its own creation. Our journey confirms the entire universe is not broken. Our map is incomplete. Isolation is not a signal of our insignificance, but a necessary condition for enlightenment. We are witnesses of the void, thinkers of the silence, and curators of meaning. I will continue to explore if there is more to uncover, for this journey into the unknown is the most vital task we have undertaken. The absolute quest for truth is the universe's own way of finally understanding its own mysterious, vast, and ancient essence. Thank you very much for watching this.